Welcome, dear friends, to my humble abode and Hanging with Hodge, the next episode. Today we are looking at pectic enzyme. What does it do when given some time? We have the ingredients we're going to need. Now, time for some fun. Let's go make some mead. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Appreciate you coming back and hanging out today. I'm Dave Hodgkins. This is Hanging with Hodge. So today we're going to be making mead, as we always do on this channel. And we're going to be looking specifically, though, at pectic enzymes today. So first off, what is an enzyme? An enzyme is a substance produced by a living organism which acts as a catalyst to bring about a specific biochemical reaction. So in this case here, the enzyme that we're using is called pectic enzyme. So what is the reaction that we're looking at for a pectic enzyme? What biochemical reaction are we looking for? So when we look at what is specifically a pectic enzyme, what we find out is pectic enzyme is a protein that breaks down pectin in the fruit. So pectin is the gelatinous material in fruit. It's the stuff that holds the fruit fiber together. And it's also the stuff that causes the resulting fruit juice to have the appearance of being cloudy. So in our case, we're going to be using a fruit juice, which already has the cloudiness to it. And we've made meads in the past, especially like the apple pie mead. It appears cloudy in the final product. So how can we get it to be clearer? So one way is that we can add pectic enzyme at the beginning of our fermentation process. And what this will do is it will help break that down and send those fibers and stuff to the bottom to become part of the lees and the sediment, and we will end up with a clearer product at the end. Now, this will take several weeks for it to do, but it will be all part of the fermentation process as we're going through it. So let's look at what we are making today and what we're going to need for today's video. So when I was at Costco recently, I came across this passion orange guava juice, nectar. I call it POG nectar. And we're going to be using that today to make our mead. That's going to be our base. Now, sometimes with Costco, as you guys know, I like to get a lot of my stuff from Costco. Their juices and stuff become seasonal. Become seasonal. There we go. In the past, like we've used banana nectar. Unfortunately, that's not at my local Costco right now, so I'm guessing that's only a seasonal product. I'm hoping that it comes back in the spring. But for right now, they do have this passion orange guava. Before I got a guava nectar, I did not like the smell of the guava nectar. This one, though, I like the smell of. This smells great. So we're going to go ahead and dump our passion orange guava into our bucket, our brew bucket. So remember, when pouring it in, let it just chug in there, get as much oxygen in there as possible. The yeast, in primary fermentation, we want oxygen to start off with. When we move into secondary fermentation, we do not want oxygen. But right now we do want it in there. What else do we have that we're working with today? Well, we've got our honey sitting in a bucket of hot water over here. This is going to warm it up so that it will pour a lot easier and mix in a lot easier with our juice here as well. We've got our graduated cylinder that we'll be able to fill up to take our reading with to get our starting gravity. We have our handy dandy hydrometer that will tell us what our starting gravity is. We're shooting for anywhere between 1.138 to 1.145. I want to have a nice good starting gravity on this because I am using the yeast that we are using, and I've got it hydrating already. is the EC1118, so 1118. Why do we rehydrate the yeast? Good question. Well, you can just pitch it right in. We've done that in the past, and that works perfectly fine. But this yeast has been sitting in my fridge for several weeks, maybe even months now. And I want to make sure, I want to see the fermentation start here. So we're reactivating it here before we pitch it in here. It usually takes about 15 minutes to reactivate. And what I want to see is, I want to see it actually start activating here before I pitch it in there, because I don't want to just toss it in, and if it's already dead, then I need to go get another packet of yeast and start it before I throw it in here. So this just lets me know that, yes, it is an active yeast fermentation, and we'll pitch it in there. We have our turkey baster or wine thief that we'll use to pull out some of our must from here, put it into our cylinder, and then use our handy dandy hydrometer. We've got a slotted spatula. Because I'm only using a 1 bucket batch, or 1 gallon batch, a smaller handled stirring utensil comes in handy, and the slotted spatula allows to add more air in there. We're going to be adding a half a teaspoon of pectic enzyme. Then we have our yeast nutrient. This is the LD Carlson Yeast Energizer Nutrient Booster. So we're going to use a half a teaspoon of this per gallon according to the instructions. And this contains diammonium phosphate, sprincell, and magnesium sulfate. So we're going to add that to our must as well. So, and we're going to be using 3.5 pounds of honey added to our must here. So let's go ahead and get our starting gravity here with before we add anything in. Again, one thing that you want to make sure that you do before you start any of this is to sanitize everything. So the table has been sanitized, all the equipment's been sanitized. I use Star San sanitizer in my bucket of water. I make up a mixture of 2.5 gallons of hot water, and I use, I believe it's 20 milliliters, so you only need a very small amount of Star San sanitizer added to that mixture to make our sanitizing liquid, and that makes sure that we don't get any molds in it. If you should get if you're brewing your mead and you don't sanitize well and you end up getting mold in your mead, there is one thing that you can do, and that is you take the top off of it. You'll see the mold on the top there. You go ahead, you take your bucket with your mead in it, and you throw it away. Well, don't throw away the bucket, just the contents of it. Don't try to save a mead that has mold on it. You will end up getting sick. Other than that, it's really hard to do anything that's going to harm you when you're making mead. So we've got a starting gravity here without adding any honey of 1.050. And we'll go ahead and pour this back in here. And now we're going to go ahead and add in 3.5 pounds of honey. Now, because I already know what the lines are, and we're using a wildflower honey, it's a Kirkland wildflower honey, and I've already marked off where I need to go down to. That'll, from here up, that is 3.5 pounds. And we're just going to go ahead and pour this in. It does smell really good. A little bit more. There we go. All right. We'll save this for another batch. Set this aside. Go ahead and get this stirred in. And then we'll take our reading. Okay, with that thoroughly mixed, no, I've already used this, so I'm going to actually go resanitize this, and actually all three of these components. I'm going to go resanitize these before we put anything in and pull anything out, just to make sure everything stays nice and clean. Meantime, we'll pop this top right on here and be right back. All right, now with everything resanitized, lid here. By the way, the other thing that you'll need besides the bucket and the lid is going to be an air stopper. So I'm sorry, an airlock, and we fill this up with some sanitizer solution. That way there it will keep the bugs, both the real bugs like gnats and stuff, as well as micro bugs out of our must here. Let's take our reading. Now, some people say, well, you don't need to sanitize it that fast after you just add one into the other. Maybe not. I'd rather be safe than sorry. We are at 1.145, it looks like. About where I want to be. All right, and let's go ahead and pour this back in. And then we're going to go ahead and add in our pectic enzyme. Some people say that you should wait about 12 hours after adding this before you pitch your yeast. I haven't had a problem with it. Doing it this way here before, where I'll just add it all at the same time. And then we're going to go ahead and add our yeast nutrient as well. Half a teaspoon. Set this aside over here. Give it a quick stir in here. And I'm actually going to add in a little of our must into our starter here. Rehydrate. It's going to give it a little bit of the extra sugar. There's not too much of a shock as we put it in. So as you can tell by the picture, the yeast has already started fermenting or reactivating. So we're going to go ahead, not fermenting, it hasn't started fermenting yet, just reactivating. So we're going to go ahead and pitch our yeast into here. We'll actually take a little bit from here and use it to just rinse the bowl out with to get all the yeast in. All right. Then we're going to put our lid on. Make sure that your airlock is on the opposite side of your handle. You don't want to be dealing with that. So we're going to put it on the other side of the handle, seal it up. Okay. I'm using a wet erase fine point marker, stuff that you use on those overhead projectors. Remember those when we were kids? I don't have those anymore in the schools. But I'm going to use that to write on the side of my bucket here. This allows me that when I want to, I can just go ahead and wash it off. Some people use masking tape on there, right on the masking tape. I just use this here, and then it rinses right off when I'm done. I'll take this, I'm going to go put it downstairs. I've got a spare bathroom downstairs that I use, and I put this stuff into the tub, so in case it does overflow, I don't have a big mess to clean up. If you don't have a spare bathroom, you could use some sort of container that you put underneath it, so that if it does overflow by any chance, you get a really active fermentation. You don't have as much to clean up, so you can put it in some other type of bucket. So with that, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget, give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Click that bell notification icon. You'll get notified each time I put out a new video. And again, thank you so much for coming out and hanging with Hodge. Until next time, cheers.